Coming up on Bloom, how to reclaim the fire in your belly.
And they have to plot out what their life was like so that they can leverage that as part of their story.
Plus, a delicious but healthy chocolate chip cookie recipe.
I focus on the quality of the ingredients that I'm using to make my recipes. So I make sure that they're nutrient dense and just clean and healthy ingredients.
And advanced eye care in Tampa Bay is giving people incredible vision. We'll have all that and more as Bloom, presented by Lifeguard Imaging, starts now. I'm Gayle Guyardo. Welcome to Bloom, presented by Lifeguard Imaging. Today we're helping you reclaim your life. And here to kick things off is the author of her new book, Reclaiming the Fire in Your Belly, a practical guide for women leaders to navigate overwhelm, Audrey McGuckin. Audrey, welcome and congratulations.
Thank you, Gayle. I couldn't be more excited to be here and share our story.
Me too, me too. And I know that you've helped hundreds and hundreds of women over the years pivot their life and their careers in a direction that they want to do so. And that's about reclaiming your life. And that's what your book is about.
Yes, and you know, one of the really inspiring things that happened when the book launched is it sold out immediately. And you know, we had a message from one of our dear friends at Amazon, and they said, I gave your book to one of my friends who I felt needed it. And she reached out to us and she said, can I buy 10 copies for my friends? Because it so helped me. And so that's really what touches our heart, is when we can spread the word and other people can reclaim the fire.
Yeah, and I think it's important to say that Audrey has worked with CEOs and C-suite leaders for much of her career. And then you started branching out to helping women both in a one-on-one setting, and men too, and also you know, in a group setting. But you've put your wisdom into a book. And I just want to talk about something that was really, as I've read the book, that really was impactful to me, because we worked one-on-one, and you talked to me about how understanding your history, your moments, your highs and lows is what can help you move forward in life. And until you go back, you can't move forward. And you say drawing a life map is incredibly helpful. So let's talk about that and why that exercise is so important to you.
Yeah, and I always like to start off with data. There's a lot of research that's been done at Harvard Business School. And the research was done to answer the question, can you teach authenticity? And the answer is yes, but to teach authenticity, the leader has to go back in their life and they have to plot out what their life was like so that they can leverage that as part of their story.
Yeah.
And so that's the you know, the academic side. But practically, it can be as simple as get a sheet of paper, draw a line, highs and lows as you navigate it.
And there's what it looks like. So if you want to do this at home and start to create a life map, it's just that easy, a line across the paper. Then you start filling the highs and lows, and we have a sampling of that. And I thought it was interesting because you and I went through this in a one-on-one session, the two of us. And you know, when you work with Audrey, she really deep dives into your life, and there might be tears flowing, there might be laughter, there are all kinds of emotions that come along with these meetups, but that's what really life is about. We go through our highs and our lows. And for me, on a personal level, I shared with Audrey, and I don't mind sharing it with the viewers either, that you know, I had a lot of learning disabilities growing up as a child, and it took me a long way to you know, get to where I am today. I wasn't the cutest kid on the planet, and I didn't feel like the smartest kid on the planet. When I overcame that as an adult, I didn't want to look back at old Gayle. I just wanted to focus on what I was doing. But looking back and revisiting her, young Gayle, was important because she's who made me who I am today. And that doesn't necessarily mean that having learning disabilities is a negative thing or that will hold you back. But you do need to look and reflect on that, because there might be memories or things, patterns or thoughts that you're hanging on to that don't really serve you today.
Exactly. And I remember the emotion, and I remember you having the aha moment where you said, goodness, I never connected those dots before. I never connected those dots. And we find that all of our women leaders, when they go through this process of doing their life map, the first time they do it on their own, it can be very transactional and numerical. This year, this is what happened. Then this year I went to school. Then this year I got my first job. But if you sit with it and say, what was I feeling? What was I doing? Then the next iteration is much more meaningful. We did this with an executive at Cardinal Health, which is, one of the top healthcare companies in the world. And he said the first time I did it, it was transactional. The next time I did it with the McGuckin Group and Women on Their Way, it was very soulful, it was very emotional, and it made me a different leader.
Which is, and that's exactly how you have to tap in to your soul, to your emotional and your feelings, so that you can extract all of that, and then, and only then, do you have something to work with.
Yes, and one of the things I love about this is I'm still working on me.
Yeah.
And my life map changes also because I remember more things from my childhood, and I connect more dots, and I become braver in the stories that I tell. You see, because it takes courage to be vulnerable, but the vulnerability leads to connection and authenticity.
You're right, and I was always so scared to be vulnerable about things, but as soon as you taught me that that's what it takes, it does create connections, and other people are more likely to speak up, and then you soon realize that you're not alone in your life journey, that other people have gone through their hardships and their difficult times, and that we're in this together. And we're excited to be in this with you, Audrey, with your new book, and to share your wisdom with our viewers. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Gayle.
And we're going to share more about Audrey and her book on bloomtampabay.com. We'll be back with more Bloom right after this. You're watching Bloom, presented by Lifeguard Imaging, saving lives through early detection. Call now, 813-582-5222 to schedule your scan today. There is a growing trend for women using cycle syncing to connect with their bodies. Joining me now to explain is integrative nutrition health coach Alexia Acebo-Carter. Alexia, welcome to Bloom.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
So talk to me about cycle syncing. What exactly is it?
Yeah, so cycle syncing is using the menstrual cycle to basically align meals, movement, and lifestyle so that women are able to experience several things. Number one, hormone balance. So experiencing, good sleep and energy and vitality at large by way of just aligning everything that you do, what you eat, how you move, the choices you make, the planning, all of it with what's happening throughout your menstrual cycle.
Now, you say there's 4 phases to this that women need to keep in mind. What are they?
Yeah, so menstrual is number one, which is the one that we're all familiar with. I think it's funny when I say the menstrual cycle for first-time clients or people that I'm talking to, they think of it just as your period, right? But the menstrual cycle does encompass that menstrual phase, and then the follicular phase, the ovulatory phase, and then the luteal phase. So in classic medical literature, you'll have 2 phases, which are follicular and luteal, split in half by ovulation, which if you're familiar or you've learned about fertility at all, that's when your body is producing the egg, right? But the 4 phases line up with specific symptoms and energy shifts and sleep and cravings and all of those things to get really kind of clear about what's happening over the course of a 28-ish day cycle.
Now, what about women that don't have a 28-day-ish cycle and that they're all over the place? And does birth control, impact this?
This is my favorite question, and it's a loaded one, for sure. I like to say, and this is pretty conclusive, that you want to live in like a 21 to 35-day cycle. That's what we would consider pretty regular, right? So the 28-day cycle, though it's perfect, right, that's not experienced by the majority of women.
Okay.
So 21 to 35 is where we want to kind of stay. And if there is irregularity beyond like 2 to 3 days, that's when we know there's probably a little bit of imbalance, whether that's high estrogen, whether your body's not producing progesterone adequately. And, you know, birth control does have an impact, right? Because you're introducing synthetic hormones that are then going to inform what's happening in terms of a rhythm that is kind of being taken away because you're suppressing ovulation. I know that that's complex. And to simplify it, yeah, birth control is going to change how long the cycle is, how short it is. And if you get off of birth control, it's going to look differently as well.
Yeah. Okay, so are you saying for the cycle syncing, it's better to not be on birth control? Because I'm just, my ship has sailed. My period is long gone. I'm in, you know, I'm postmenopausal now, but I would say that I went the majority of my life cycle syncing and not even knowing that was a thing, and really not even needing to rely on birth control because you're so in sync with your body. And it's not why I have 4 kids, just in case you're wondering. That was by choice. But the cycle syncing, it really does work if you allow it to.
Yeah, and I think what you're talking about more is like fertility awareness and fertility awareness method of knowing, okay, these are the days that I'm fertile and I can be really aware of that and when it's happening. And, you know, when you take that a step further of, okay, I'm in my menstrual phase, I'm feeling a little bit more tired, I'm feeling a little bit more like I want to isolate, I'm going to do that. So then when I get into follicular, I have more energy, I can experience more social activity, I can brainstorm and have ideas and go out and do new things, and so on and so forth as the cycle goes. That's kind of where the magic happens. But to answer your question, yes, getting off of the birth control, right, if that's available to you, because there are so many unique circumstances and everyone's physiology is so specific. But when you take the birth control out of the picture and you can actually experience the ebbs and flows of your hormones, that's when you get to capitalize on exactly what you're saying. One, knowing what's going on with your fertility. Like knowing, okay, I'm actually not going to get pregnant now because I know it's only possible at this time. But also knowing, what are my cravings telling me? How can I work out and not be exhausted? How am I going to optimize my sleep throughout my cycle without that synthetic hormone coming in and informing it a little bit more?
Is it true that you can use cycle syncing for weight loss?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. So all of the research, I don't want to say all of it, the majority of the research up until this point has been done on men and postmenopausal women.
Of course it has.
Right?
Yeah,
of course,
right.
I know. I'm like, yes, of course it has. And I could go on a soapbox for hours
me too.
about
I would
this.
join you. You and I would be fighting for space.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, why is that? Because women with a menstrual cycle are harder to study. Because longitudinally, right, if you have a period and there's a chance of pregnancy, those participants are much harder to do research on. So what does that do? Well, the medical literature sways in one direction, and postmenopausal women hormonally are much more similar to men, right? So the information we have doesn't apply to women that are having an ebb and flow of estrogen and progesterone and luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. That's going to affect the way their metabolism works. So when it comes to weight loss, the first half of your cycle, your metabolism is kind of revving, your appetite is smaller generally, you need less energy, and your body is working better with sugar, so you're more insulin sensitive. When you get into the latter half of your cycle, while your body's preparing for pregnancy, even if you're not pregnant, right, you're going to be a little bit more insulin resistant because your body's holding on to energy in order to use it to create life. It all goes back to life.
To life, man.
To life.
This is a fascinating conversation. I wish we could talk about it for the whole hour, but we're out of time. But hey, listen, I hope you come back. It's been great having you on Bloom.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We're going to share Alexia's story on BloomTampaBay.com. And later, we're whipping up protein chocolate chip cookies in the Bloom kitchen. But first, it's time for today's Bloom trivia question. True or false? Your period can affect how you sound. We'll have the answer later on Bloom. Living the Tampa Bay lifestyle means enjoying the sand, sun, and outdoors fun. So get out, get active, and nurture those healthy habits. Hey there, I'm Gayle Guyardo, host of Bloom. Now there's a new all-inclusive place with everything you need to shape your lifestyle, boost your health, and improve your wellness. BloomTampaBay.com, Tampa Bay's premier health and wellness website, made to help you feel good. Whether you're a fitness fanatic, beauty buff, or just want to take your first step towards positive change, this free website is for you. See the Bay Area's hottest fitness products, the latest workout crazes, and learn nutrition tips from the experts. Plus, discover local events and experiences designed with your well-being in mind. Cultivate a healthy mind, body, and soul. Check out BloomTampaBay.com, your local health and wellness website. That's BloomTampaBay.com. Welcome back to Bloom. For many, a new class of weight loss drugs are helping people reclaim their lives. In a recent episode of Bloom Health Club, I caught up with award-winning dermatologist Dr. Seth Foreman, who is the founder of 4Care Medical Group, where a lot of the research for those drugs happen. He told me what you can expect next with the weight loss boom.
As we were finishing the GLP-1 trials, which is the whole class of the injectables, you've heard of Ozempic and Wegovy and Mounjaro and Zepbound, they all operate on the same mechanism of action inside the body. However, those are injectables. There's a whole class of oral medications that are in trials right now that not just have the GLP-1 agonist, but also have a few other elements to it that can make it even more successful for weight loss.
Now, Dr. Foreman is expanding his research space and trying to bring in doctors from around the world to Tampa to be part of breakthrough research happening in Tampa Bay.
When I speak to people like yourself and to other physicians as well as other providers and patients, what I say is we're developing a medical research hub. We can expand. We are hoping that doctors will put their private practices right next to our office. We are getting offered more trials than we can even handle right now. If you put your private practice right next to our office, we will use you. We have trials for Parkinson's. We have trials for Alzheimer's. There's still no wonderful drug for Alzheimer's. There is one that has been approved, but the data is not incredibly strong. Actually, there's a few out, but one just recently, but the data is not that strong, that we're getting offered Alzheimer's trials that we can't do yet because we don't have the personnel. So we're hoping to bring other private practitioners to the area, either at 4Care Clinical Research Center to have their private practice in our building or to have their private practice right next door.
You can stream the entire conversation with Seth and watch our podcast anytime on YouTube or listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We'll be back with more Bloom right after this. You're watching Bloom, presented by Lifeguard Imaging, saving lives through early detection. Call now 813-582-5222 to schedule your scan today. It's summertime and we're all looking for fun things to do with the kiddos, and that includes time in the kitchen together. Joining me now with a healthy spin on chocolate chip cookies is food blogger at Healthy Fitness Meals, Rena Awada. Rena, welcome to Bloom.
Thanks for having me.
So I understand that these are a fan favorite at your house, and you have 5 kids.
Yes, my kids love them, and actually these cookies went viral when I posted them on Instagram. They had 361,000 likes with over 37,000 comments and 10 million views. So not just my kids love them, everyone loves them.
Because you say you can't really taste the protein packed into these cookies.
No,
Because a lot of times protein powders, you're like, oh, I can taste it, it's okay, but it's not great. But these are great, so how do we put them together?
Okay, so first you're gonna mix the peanut butter.
Okay. Now, do you use a specific kind of peanut butter?
Creamy peanut butter works best.
Okay.
So you need the peanut butter.
And are you using the no sugar added raw peanut butter? Or
Yes.
Okay.
And then coconut sugar, so no refined sugar.
Okay, that's good to know.
And then 2 eggs.
Oh, I like that. I never use my eggs together like that to crack them. I learned so many things on this show.
So the great thing about these cookies is they don't have any oil or butter.
Okay.
I have added protein, no refined sugar. They're ready in 10 minutes. You only need 10 minutes to bake them.
Really? Just
With
10 minutes?
11 grams of protein per cookie. So now you just need to mix these ingredients together until you form a paste-like texture.
Okay. And it's coming together pretty quickly, especially when you consider you're mixing really just peanut butter, eggs.
Yeah, sometimes it's easy to just melt the peanut butter a little bit in the fridge and the microwave.
Okay.
It just makes it easier to mix this together.
All right. And then next up is the protein powder. And
Yes.
that is, you're using a whey protein, but if people are vegan, could they just try
They
to?
can use plant-based
Okay.
protein, and if you don't want to use protein powders at all, you can use almond flour or oat flour.
Okay. And all of your recipes are approved by dietitians. So you put
Yes.
this together
Yes.
and they get a stamp of approval, which is great. How many calories per cookie?
About 220 calories
Okay.
per cookie, only because the peanut butter is just nutrient dense. I didn't use any oil in this.
And,
So now-
these are sizable cookies.
Yes, you can make 8 large cookies, and then you can make 10 to 12 smaller
Okay.
sizes.
All right. Good to know.
So now you put the protein powder,
All right.
and then baking soda,
All right.
and then you gotta give this a good mix again. And then they'll just keep mixing until they get incorporated.
And then after that all gets melded together is when you're now are these chocolate chips or cacao chips? What do
They're
you
chocolate
prefer?
chips.
Okay.
I like to use dark chocolate chips. Sometimes I'll use semi-sweet, but you can use sugar-free or dairy-free chocolate chips.
We have a segment here on Bloom called Everything in Moderation. Is that something that you believe in as well?
Yes, I definitely believe in that. And I don't really count calories. I focus on the quality of the ingredients that I'm using to make my recipes. So I make sure that they're nutrient dense, very minimally processed, and just clean and healthy ingredients.
And this has worked for you on a personal level as well, correct?
Yes.
All right, so, a lot of people think that they have to restrict themselves or, do all these things, but in actuality, you might do better if you give yourself, like you say, a cleaner version of something sweet to eat.
Yes, definitely.
And this is a fun thing to do with the kiddos. My kids love making cookies, like still to this day. But I think if I can give them this recipe, I won't be so tempted when they leave the real chocolate chip. So I'm going to take a little sample while you're finishing mixing that because I want to see why these bad boys went viral. Where'd you post this recipe?
On Instagram and TikTok, and I still get DMs today, people asking for the recipe.
So you're going to mix in
Chocolate chips.
the chocolate chips, and the next part is just scooping this onto some parchment paper and cooking them, as Rena said, just for 10 minutes.
10
These
minutes.
are next level amazing. We're going to share this recipe with you on BloomTampaBay.com. We'll be back with more Bloom right after this.
The following portion of Bloom is sponsored by Newsome Eye.
Welcome back to Bloom. Tampa Bay provides access to innovative vision correction procedures that can be a game changer for a better and healthier life, especially with early cataract surgery. Joining me now is Newsome Eye cataract and LASIK surgeon and board-certified ophthalmologist, Dr. T. Hunter Newsome, along with his patient and mother-in-law, Patsy Ayers. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about the backstory, because I think a lot of people think you have to wait until you're in your 60s or 70s to deal with cataracts.
Yep. So what happens a lot with us is patients come in, younger patients, thinking, hey, I want to do LASIK, but they lose distance vision and they start to lose near vision as well. So that issue is really a problem with the lens in your eye. So rather than saying, hey, you have cataracts at age 65 when you're younger, and my mom or mother-in-law came in when she was 54 saying, I want LASIK. We said, no, the better option is to remove the lens in your eye or do early cataract surgery, put a lens in that can focus for both distance and near vision.
So you had this done, you came in for LASIK, and then a couple years later at 57, you came back and said, no, let's do the original plan.
I started wearing glasses when I was 6.
Okay.
And I wore them for 53 years, those glasses. Then, as I aged, I saw that things were getting darker, and I did not see as well. And fortunately, he was married to my daughter by then, so I put myself in readers, thought that would help. It's a cool thing to do. And you never can find the readers. You need glasses to find the readers.
Right.
Because they're somewhere, they're either in your purse
I
or
know
somewhere.
this.
Yeah. So we discussed it, and I thought, well, you know what? If my son-in-law is willing to do this, I'm going for it. And we did the surgery. It's the best thing I did it's the best decision I ever made. I wear no glasses. I can see everything. I would definitely do it again. The staff was wonderful. The facility was wonderful. I know people have qualms about messing with your eyes, but I only took a few minutes and I was done. Then 2 weeks later, we did the other eye, and it's been 17 years. So I'm 76, no glasses.
That is, you say it's a game changer.
Oh, definitely.
That's amazing.
Definitely.
And you say since then, I mean, the technology, the procedures, everything has even come
even better.
Yeah.
Yep, even better. Yep. So our ability to get patients like she is at distance and near and not using glasses, our accuracy and results have only gotten better over the last 17 years. So don't tell her I said this, but sometimes the lenses we put in, and she's one of our biggest proponents, and all of her friends and neighbors come in to see us. So I'm like, hey, here's a newer lens, but don't tell Patsy yet that we have this newer lens. But it's just proof that even 17 years later, can the lens still work? Where a lot of times LASIK patients say, hey, the LASIK wore off, and it's really the lens isn't working the way that it should. So when you replace the lens, the stability of that procedure lasts for a lot longer than LASIK does.
And at the end of the day, a patient like myself, because I would be the age now that Patsy was when she came in and asking about this, you can just do an actual exam and know exactly what to do for the patient, correct?
Yep, I mean, that's what we do. So 60,000 surgeries that I've performed. We've been there, done that, we've seen it all. And now I have lots of different lens options. Back 17 years ago, there was sort of one lens option that was working well, that was it. Now there's 10, 20 different lenses that we could use to get the same result, to match what fits each patient in each eye.
And you know what my takeaway from this, Patsy, is if the mother-in-law says it works and has all these raving reviews, it works.
And there was no downtime. A lot of
Okay.
people think, I mean, he told me don't go home and move furniture this afternoon, but there was no downtime. When I went to Publix, I had to put glasses on because everything was just so much brighter, sunglasses. So no glasses, just
I love it.
designer sunglasses.
This is
That's
a
all you
great,
need.
thank you guys so much for sharing the story. I really appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Thank you.
All right, and for more information, call 813-908-2020 or visit newsomeye.com. We'll be back with more Bloom right after this.
The preceding portion of Bloom was sponsored by Newsom Eye.
You're watching Bloom, presented by Lifeguard Imaging. We begin where your checkup ends. Call now, 813-582-5222 to schedule your scan today. For many of us, online spending is like a runaway train. Just when we bring in one box, another one is left at our door. Here to help you reclaim your life from spending too much online is financial expert and the owner of Her Money Solutions, Kristen Delfo. Kristen, it's so great to see you.
Good to see you, Gayle.
Man, this is becoming a problem for me. And then I was just reading some statistic that just blindly spending like $27 a day adds up to like $10,000 a year. Like, you don't realize how much we're wasting with online spending.
Yeah, and it can get it can get very pricey very fast. One thing that I've found that has helped cut down on the amount that you're spending is coupon stacking. So if you have a coupon code, that's one thing, and you have sales and all of that, but there are other sites that if you log through them, you'll get additional discounts rebated back to you. One of them is called Retail Me Not that I've liked. Another one is Rakuten. There are other ones, but I compare both those two each time to see who's going to give me the better deal. And quite frankly, yes, are they selling your data? Of course. Is everybody selling your data? Probably. So at least I'm getting a little bit of something back for the data that they're taking from me.
That's a good one. All right, this next trick my husband loves to do. He goes through all of our credit card statements and finds these recurring charges. And man, do they add up.
Yeah, the subscriptions. So it can be annual, it can be monthly. They just kind of pile up and sneak up on us. So it's a really good idea every couple of months to go through our subscriptions and see, are we still watching that channel? Do our kids still need that channel, that Disney? Are we done with that movie series? Let's go through it, get rid of it. Oh, I'm not using that service so much anymore. let's cut that out and just put that right back in your pocket.
I like that. This one I didn't even know existed, and still a 24-hour cooling off period for online.
We do that in our house. It's like,
do
do you
it.
really want this? And Amazon can be really tricky because if you're starting to think about shopping for something, they'll entice you with a quick lightning deal so you feel that you really need to buy it right then. But we do the 24-hour cooling off period. If we already know we need that item, now we'll buy it. But it's like, do I really need to add that to my cart too? Let me think about that and save it for later.
I like that. That's a good one. This next one I really like. I actually lean online to grocery shop because I don't go in hungry buying extra food. I don't see things I don't really need. You say make a list, whether it's online or offline.
Yeah, and I do weekly groceries. I set it all up sometime either Saturday or Sunday, and I make the menu for the week, because that way I'm not standing in front of the fridge 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night going, what am I going to feed everyone? And we're all hungry and grouchy, and that's when you start doing a lot of takeout. So I try to do the menu for the week, and then I'll use a service. Kroger in the Tampa area has moved in probably a couple years ago. It's like $60 for the year for delivery. Over $35 groceries is free. And you're not with the Instacart extra charges here, there, and everywhere. Kroger's prices have actually been really good, and they have coupons, which I've been really happy about, and the produce has been decent. So I'll buy some there. I'll do some Target.com for some other stuff. You know, a little bit here and there, trying to cobble it all together. But that's the way that we've been able to cut down on our grocery bills substantially, because like you said, you're not going into the store hungry. Oh, look at that's on sale. Let's just throw that in the cart.
Right, or I'm buying two of something I didn't even need in the first place because it's a BOGO.
Exactly.
You know, like, oh, I'm saving money, but am I?
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, these are great tips. It's always such a pleasure to see you.
Thanks again, Gayle, for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kristen. We're going to share all of her advice on BloomTampaBay.com. We'll be back with more Bloom right after this. There's a growing trend when it comes to raising kids called conscious parenting. Put simply, conscious parenting asks that instead of striving to fix your child, parents look inward at themselves. Here to tell us how it works is clinical psychologist, international speaker, New York Times bestselling author of The Parenting Map and The Conscious Parent, Dr. Shefali. Dr. Shefali, welcome to Bloom.
Thank you for having me.
So I gave the cliff notes of conscious parenting, but what exactly is it?
Yeah, so it is a movement that I was blessed to pioneer way back in 2010 with the book, The Conscious Parent, which was against the current model of parenting. So what is the current model of parenting? Is one where the parent assumes the hierarchical power, dominance, and superiority, and seeks to make the child a version of the parent's expectation, seeks to mold and maneuver and puppeteer the child so that the child becomes this product that meets the parent's expectations. Conscious parenting is the inversion of that, where the focus is not on creating a perfect child, but for the parent to raise themselves to a higher level of consciousness, because what children need the most in order to survive and thrive is for parents who are attuned, parents who are present and available, and who get them. In order for the parents to get the child, the parent needs to connect to who the child is and not who the child is in their fantasy. And that's where conscious parenting comes in, because it helps the parent to evolve into a higher state of consciousness.
This is really interesting because I'm the mom of four, and I struggle because I had a mom who is the old school example, and you know, I think she did a brilliant job. I mean, being her daughter was not easy at times, but the end result turned out really well. I swung the pendulum and I subscribed to more of the conscious parenting. But I have to say, it sometimes you feel like you're releasing the reins a little bit, and that's difficult.
That is, you hit the nail on the head, because we all as humans, especially parents, are obsessed with control. We want to control the thoughts, the moods, the feelings of our children, our partners, everybody around us, because then we feel good about ourselves, because everyone is now being tethered to our ways of thinking. And when we release those controls a little bit, we are afraid that everything will be drug, sex, and rock and roll. But it's not true. We're not releasing the control in terms of all guidance. What we're doing is we're handing the control to the child, so the child begins to know who it is they are and begins to regulate themselves and maneuver themselves into their highest potential. So instead of us making them be successful for us, we're teaching them to learn to be successful for themselves.
Yeah, and I think that is really so important because, you know, you learn a lot through parenting with one child after the next. And I think with like my older daughter, you know, maybe I was setting up too many, expectations and wanting too much control. And I feel like later as she got older, that backfired against me because she needed her space for mom trying to like pull the strings. And it's, you're trying to help, but really you might be hurting them in the long run.
Right. And, I recently launched a podcast called Parenting and You. And on the podcast, I coach parents in real time. The reason why I do that is precisely because of what you said. It is so hard to do this in the moment. It's so hard to do it in practice. It's easy to think it, nobody wants to harm their children. No parent wants to over micromanage and over obsess and over produce their children. But yet in the moment, we think that that's the way to do because of our conditioning in childhood. So I teach parents on my podcast, in my practice, to understand that when you're releasing that control, you're actually igniting in your children their own inner control, their own inner empowerment, so that when they grow up, their authentic self is right there. You and I were raised in the traditional model. So we had to go on this big journey of healing to find our authentic selves. What I'm trying to teach in my podcast, in Conscious Parenting, in my books, is that, hey, you can teach your children to stay authentic from childhood on, so your children don't have to get damaged and go on this big journey to find their authentic self and heal. So all my work helps parents develop this different way of communicating with their children.
I think it's really brilliant. I'm so glad you're out with the podcast, the book. I mean, my mom is gone now, but I find myself talking to her like, should I be doing it your way, Mom? Should I be doing it this way? And so now we have you at least giving us some direction of a very complicated role of being a parent. So thank you so much, Dr. Shefali.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're going to share this story on bloomtampabay.com. We will be back with more Bloom right after this. Part of reclaiming your life is organizing your schedule to maximize your time. Joining me now with tips for creating a thriving summer schedule is high-performance strategist Genesis Hay-Crick. It is so good to see you again.
You too.
So I was saying, now that summer's here, I'm already finding myself, because I don't have to make 3 different breakfasts and all these things to do, time is slipping away. And I think for a lot of us, we still want to stay productive even during the summer months.
We do. And I think so many of us go into summer with the anticipation of having a lot of fun, and we're excited and it's going to be more leisurely, but it can also be equally as stressful because there's still a lot of working parents. We still have a lot of things that we're planning and trying to take care of. And so it can be that challenging time where now we have to completely reframe our mindset to this summer schedule.
So how can someone prioritize tasks when everything seems so important?
So I use a couple of strategies, and this helps a lot of my clients, and it's super simple. And if you have a list, which all of us do, we all have a list of things that we're working on, you put them in order, number them, say 1 through 10, on the top most important things that you have to do. And I do this every single day. So basically looking at those top 10 things on my master list, and then I use the Eisenhower matrix. And Basically, the way that this works is you separate the important and urgent tasks versus the non-important and urgent. And then you look at every single one and you say, how important is this? How urgent is this with a timely manner? Because they all have a timeliness to them.
Yeah, you're right. And a lot of us do have, like you say, still juggling work. I got to get one off to college. You know,
Yes.
I've got a lot of things to prepare. So what are some simple habits to improve productivity?
So I think just starting off having those important conversations every single day. So waking up and tackling the most challenging things first and saying, hey guys, this is what we're doing together. So a lot of people have kids at home. A lot of individuals are also sending their kids to camps, and we're in the midst of trying to figure out this new schedule, but having that conversation in the morning of what are our expectations and what are we truly committing to. Because when everyone's on the same page, it's so much easier to get things done, to be productive, and to be organized.
Yeah, and I sometimes for me on a personal level, having that conversation the night before, because I might dash out the
Yes.
door, and I need my kids to understand when you wake up, you've got this on the table, you've got tutoring at this, you've got to be at your job at this
Yes.
time. Like, you have to kind of plan ahead, and I always just do a kind of a reminder call just to make sure everybody's up and moving.
That's great.
Yeah, and so any other, we have about a minute left, any other strategies that you share with your clients that seem to be effective?
So a really great time blocking tip is the Pomodoro strategy, and that's basically where you work for 25 minutes and you break for 5 minutes, and you do that 4 times, and then you create a longer break time after that 4-time sequence. And the reason I say this, especially this one, is because we have to make sure we're taking time for those breaks so that we can create that rest and restoration, spend that time with our kids, have fun, do exciting things, and take care of ourselves.
Yeah, and that will help us stay focused. Thank you so much for sharing these valuable tips with our Bloom viewers.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We're going to share this story on bloomtampabay.com. We'll be back with more Bloom right after this. It's time for today's Bloom trivia question. True or false? Your period can affect how you sound. The answer is true. According to vocalization researchers, women's voices can change slightly during their menstrual cycle because reproductive hormones affect the vocal cords. Who knew? Well, we hope you'll tune in again on the next Bloom presented by Lifeguard Imaging. Lipedema warrior and a woman helping to educate millions of others about a condition that makes it impossible to lose fat is coming back on Bloom. I'm checking in with content creator Allison Jacobs about her recent surgeries to find out how she's doing now. And we'll tell you about a cost-effective way to save money on your electric bill and protect your home during hurricane season. So stay healthy, everyone, and I will see you on the next Bloom.
The following portion of Bloom is sponsored by Newsome Eye.
Call now 813-582-5222 to schedule your scan today.